HarperCollins presents The Killer in the Cold by Alex Pine. Read by Simon Darwen. I'd like to dedicate this book to all those readers who have let me know how much they've enjoyed this series of Christmas crime books. Your kind words have encouraged me to stick with it and to put my all into making each edition as riveting as possible. Prologue. For Stuart Farrell, going on long morning walks with Daisy was one of the few pleasures he got out of life, and he was pretty sure that she enjoyed the experience as much as he did. Since becoming a widower 9 months ago, his beloved Cocker Spaniel had been his closest companion. She was his rock, his soulmate, the reason he gave himself for getting out of bed each day. As he watched her now jumping around in the snow, he wondered how he would ever cope without her. Last Boxing Day, his wife had been with them. Even though she'd recently been diagnosed with a serious heart problem, she had wanted to make the most of Christmas, because she'd suspected that it might well be her last. This first festive period without her had been really challenging, thanks in part to the bad weather. On Christmas Day, he'd stayed indoors like most of the other villagers, as blizzards swept across Cumbria. Kirkby Abbey was pummeled by heavy snow and brutal winds. Even the tall Christmas tree in the village square had blown over. But thankfully, today was much calmer, and hopefully it would stay that way at least until the new year. It was 10 o'clock when he turned into Maple Lane on the edge of the village. It stretched for about 600 yards in front of him, the rough tarmac surface covered by a thick layer of pristine snow. Very few vehicles used the lane, which led only to a single detached house and a gate that gave access to surrounding woodland. Farrell followed the same route most mornings, because there was no need to put Daisy on her lead, and so she got to move more freely and burn more energy. It always made him smile when she explored the undergrowth, sniffed out the wildlife, and barked at things she saw or sensed. She was doing that now, so something in the knee-high bushes to their left must have seized her attention. As he approached her, she continued to bark, and he followed her wide-eyed gaze, expecting to see a frightened rabbit or deer staring back at him. But instead, he spotted something on the ground between clumps of bushes. It wasn't until he was within a few yards of it that he realized what he was looking at. "Oh, Christ," he blurted to himself. It was a body half covered with snow. Parts of a red garment were visible, along with an arm and a shoe. He felt a stab of alarm, and the air shuddered in his throat. For a few seconds he couldn't move, and the blood roared in his ears. Then instinct propelled him forward, and he was soon on his knees, and brushing the snow from the figure on the ground. It was at once evident that the body was that of a man, and to Farrell's astonishment, he was wearing a Santa Claus costume. But another shock was quickly forthcoming, when he cleared the snow from the face and immediately recognized the frozen features of someone he'd known. Someone who was clearly dead, and most likely had been for some time. Chapter 1. They were in the living room, all four of them. Annie was sitting in an armchair while breastfeeding Theo. Bella was lying on the floor, her head on a cushion, her eyes glued to yet another episode of Peppa Pig on the television. And Detective Chief Inspector James Walker was on the sofa, taking it all in with a contented smile on his face. He could not have been happier. Today was Boxing Day, and he'd got to spend Christmas with his family. Plus, he wasn't due to return to work until Monday, which was still 4 days away. The next few days would be all about enjoying their special time together. This afternoon they planned to go for a walk if the weather remained calm, and he and Annie then aimed to put the kids to bed early and have a quiet dinner together. It was a far cry from last year, when he and his team had spent the whole of Christmas investigating a series of brutal killings out on the fells. Bella was only just over 18 months old back then, and Annie had been 5 months pregnant with Theo. James had spent hardly any time with them, and it had made him feel sad and guilty. In fact, since moving to Cumbria from London 4 years ago, each festive season had been much the same. Plenty of bells and baubles, but also a horrid amount of bloodshed that kept him busy. Thankfully, it seemed that the county had been relatively
Sample complete. Ready to continue?